Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with the Harvard Eye Associates folks. Now we're going to have a great conversation with Democratic Club. And joining us for that, Alan Feldman and Jeannie Lepowski. Thanks for coming in again. It's great to see you guys again. Tell us a little bit about, like I always try to do, a little bit about the Democratic Club for anybody who doesn't know what it's all about. Well, seems self-evident.
Yeah, it's a political club that's chartered by the Democratic Party of Orange County. Mm-hmm. We hold monthly meetings. We bring guest speakers, like a lot of the clubs do here. And really, our job, as we see it, is to get people to vote, get people out to vote, number one, mm-hmm. and elect Democrats, 1 and 1A.
Right. So it's a great way for folks who want to maybe see some candidates, get a little involved, find out what the issues are to kind of like, that's a good entree to figure these things out.
That's really what we try to do. That's what mm-hmm. we try to do with our meetings. We try to bring a diversity of people, mm-hmm. Diversity of subjects, not just strictly politics, but mm-hmm. diversity of subjects for people, things that people would be interested in.
August 15th, you got a speaker coming in, and that's not exactly it's not a candidate, but it's a great topic.
Right, exactly. It's basically a topic about women and women's rights, mm-hmm. And our speaker is Elahi Amani. She is going to talk about, her topic is entitled "Women, Life, Freedom: No Turning Back: A Historical Renaissance in Iran." And the reason why she calls it a renaissance is because, as many of us remember, there was a revolution in, I believe it was 1979. Right. It was called the Islamic Revolution, and it was a religious takeover of the government, essentially. And so Iran became a theocracy. Women's rights were greatly curtailed during that time. Mm-hmm. And then back in last year, in September of 2022, there was a woman who was arrested for not wearing her hijab, which is right. a religious requirement rather than a choice. And she was arrested, and she died in custody for not wearing her hijab correctly. And that caused widespread protests. And those protests, some people say, are going to lead, or they were saying at least, that it's going to lead to the overthrow of the government. Mm-hmm. And there have been some minor changes as I understand it, but we'll learn more from Elahi mm-hmm. Amani next week on the 15th when she comes. We're going to be in Clubhouse 2, the main lounge, and the program starts at 7, but you can come early if you want to chit-chat with people.
And I heard actually just this week the enforcement of the hijab has actually started up again in Iran, so it's unfortunate. It sounds like that may be going back to that again.
Yeah, and there's always this give and take on rights, and we've mm-hmm. had our own struggles here in the United States with regard to women's rights, and as everybody knows, there are some rights that have now been curtailed for women, mm-hmm. and there are people who are pushing to do further curtailment, and this is especially with regard to women's health and mm-hmm. pregnancy and contraception and things mm-hmm. like that. So it's an important issue for us as women in the United States to learn from. Mm-hmm. So these are things that can happen, although we never were as bad as, well, not in my lifetime, we were never as bad as it was in Iran, but right. There are still lessons that we can learn. So mm-hmm. it's going to be a very interesting meeting.
And Alan, none of this happens free, so you guys have some fundraisers coming up. And you guys you fundraise the funds, and you can hold the events and get these speakers and do what you guys do. So tell us a little bit about what you have coming up.
Exactly. So in September the 10th, we have our annual dinner/fundraiser. It's going to be September the 10th at Clubhouse 1. It begins at 5:15. People can start arriving at 4:30. We're going to have a silent auction, which we usually have mostly gift cards for local businesses, restaurants, mm-hmm. supermarkets, things that people can use. We're going to have a live auction. There'll be door prizes. We have a guest speaker, and that's going to be former State Controller Betty Yee. Mm-hmm. Betty Yee has been elected twice to the California Board of Equalization, which I understand is the only publicly elected tax authority in America. Oh. And she's been elected controller twice. She stepped down in 2022 because of term limits. But in 2018, she was the leading vote getter in the entire state of California in the election. And there's a really good chance she's going to run for governor in 2026. So we're
Okay.
excited to have her. And people want to go. There's a flyer, which you can see up on the screen now. But at the bottom of that flyer, there's a tear-off. So if you want to sign up and pay, it costs $35 for club members, $40 for non-members. You can fill that out, send in your check, tells you where to send it. If you prefer to do it online, the flyer will tell you the website you can access to pay with credit card. But the only thing is we are limited in the number of people we can accommodate, so it's usually a very well-attended event.
Do it now. Get registered.
Better now
Sooner
than later. Right, you don't want to get a
And where
shut
can
out.
people find the flyer if they...
The flyer is in all the clubhouses.
Okay, great. And so they can get that.
Yeah.
How important is the fundraising part of the mechanism for your organization?
Oh, it's very important for us. And this is not the only time we fundraise. We do it all year long. Rebecca Guillard, our vice president, and Ray Dapp, they're in charge of fundraising. They find all these creative ways to hold our hands out. But the reason we fundraise is so that we can support candidates, especially local candidates running in what we call down ballot elections.
Right.
It's really, especially in a presidential year, it's hard for these candidates to get heard. Makes it even harder to raise money.
Right.
And whether we like it or not, if you want to run a good campaign, you have to raise money.
Right, have to raise money. The big ticket guys in the presidential races, those guys know how to do it. They have the mechanism in place. But these local candidates, I mean, it's like $25, $50 donations are a big deal that really can make a difference in terms of them sending out their flyers or they're doing whatever they're going to do.
Right. It takes money, and we try to support them as best we can. The more money that we raise, the more money we can contribute to them. We also contribute to local nonprofit, not only local, but nonprofit organizations like the Foundation in Laguna Woods, and also we Planned Parenthood and the Brady Campaign, and also South County Outreach. So.
Now, not quite a partisan issue, but one that's definitely can get contentious a little bit is regional housing needs assessment that's been going on around here.
Right. And one of the issues I see is that people don't really understand what it means and how it works. And that's not because people are just uninformed, it's because it's a complicated issue.
Right.
So there are a couple of terms I'd like to define. First of all, RHNA is Regional Housing Needs Assessment. And it's a needs assessment that's forward-looking. And what it does is it determines how the zoning in our city needs to change. So it means that our city needs to figure out how to zone for an additional 997. That's the number that Laguna Woods has come up with, the city came up with. So how to zone for those additional houses. That doesn't mean they're going to be built. Okay,
right.
because
but if they're going to put them somewhere, where would they go?
Exactly,
right.
Exactly. So we can't say, well, there's this unoccupied building next to Stater Brothers, which there was at one time not too long ago, and can we build housing there? No, the answer is no,
right.
because it's not built, it's not zoned for housing. So the idea is to, how do we change the zoning in Laguna Woods to make sure that if we need the additional 997 units of housing, which we may or may not, then we know where they're going to go, and we don't have to go through all kinds of, the city doesn't have to go through all kinds of convolutions.
Right, and all sorts of planning goes into that in terms of traffic and how we're going to get utilities and those kinds of things, the increase in that. So it's not just, hey, we're going to redraw a map. It's where are we going to go from here? Exactly
right. And the way that's determined, something that a lot of people, probably most people don't know, I didn't know it until fairly recently, is that needs assessment is determined by the Southern California Association of Governments. And the Southern California Association of Governments includes all of the cities that are in all of the counties that are in Southern California, which goes from Ventura, Los Angeles County, San Bernardino County, and all the way south to the Mexican border.
Right.
So all of those organizations are required by California law to, all of those cities are required by law to come up with a needs assessment. And they do that by talking to each other, planning together.
It's a holistic approach. You can't just be one isolated city making all the sense. So everybody's going to share a little bit of the pain and the everything that goes with those things. So.
And one more thing I want to make sure people know.
Real quick.
If you go to the City of Laguna Woods, you can get a frequently asked questions about the regional housing needs assessment.
Okay.
You can also get a map of the zones.
Take a look at what we have now and where.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Terrific. Hey, always a pleasure to have you guys in.
Thank you.
Jeannie and Alan, thanks so much from the Democratic Club. We'll be right back with a preview of Monday's movie. Stay with us.